I've been bout my papyrus since I've been in it. Put me in the debate, you know I'm gon' win it. If I scream black power, don't get timid. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. Primary research and we done pushed it to the limits. All you dudes finished. The king counting cattle up with brother Reggie. When I'm in Oakland, smoking, bro, they love the Chevy. Back in the day, it was the spokes on the chariot. Long procession when the king got carried out to every spot. Woman looking nice as ISIS. I read ancient texts, so my advice is priceless. Nubian gold, your ice don't entice us. Beating me harder than counting grains in your spices. Your heart was beating, but your brain dead, you're lifeless. Yo, they ain't nothing like us, yo. Don't try to make me mad. Make me smile and say you love me, man. That's real right there. Yeah, come on. You should listen to your main man's advice. Do a YouTube and apologize like Dice. Or the back fade coming like the Antichrist. Egyptologists see me reading and said that I'm nice. I got a speller with your name on it. I'm like Sargon. You the type of dude wake up in your car gone. Told, cause of the money you owe. Before you stream, you should clean up that humble abode. Like I'm not in city for my woman in gold. I keep the pseudos running, people coming in droves. You catch me on a live stream with Pan-African James. When we building, call us by our African names. I'm for the children. And ain't nothing happened to change. We on that black hype, so we still packing them things. For protection, got connections. My complexion, pure black, that's the S. Make me smile. You love me? Show me some love. All right.
Go. We're gonna let some people roll in the house real quick. On this real, I'm about to bring that joint back. I like that joint. Let some people roll through real quick.
I've been bout my papyrus since I've been in it. Put me in the debate, you know I'm gon' win it. If I scream black power, don't get timid. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. Primary research and we done pushed it to the limits. All you dudes finished. The king counting cattle up with brother Reggie. When I'm in Oakland, smoking, bro, they love the Chevy. Back in the day, it was the spokes on the chariot. Long procession when the king got carried out to every spot. Woman looking nice as ISIS. I read ancient texts, so my advice is priceless. Nubian gold, your ice don't entice us. Beating me harder than counting grains in your spices. Your heart was beating, but your brain dead, you're lifeless. Yo, they ain't nothing like us, yo. Don't try to make me mad. Make me smile and say you love me, man. That's real right there. Come on. You should listen to your main man's advice. Do a YouTube and apologize like Dice. Or the back fade coming like the Antichrist. Egyptologists see me reading and said that I'm nice. I got a speller with your name on it. I'm like Sargon. You the type of dude wake up in your car gone. Told, cause of the money you owe. Before you stream, you should clean up that humble abode. Like I'm not in city for my woman in gold. I keep the pseudos running, people coming in droves. You catch me on a live stream with Pan-African James. When we building, call us by our African names. I'm for the children. And ain't nothing happened to change. We on that black hype, so we still packing them things. For protection, got connections. My complexion, pure black, that's the S. Make me smile. You love me? Show me some love. All right.
What's up? Peace to everybody out there. What's up, RTP? I see you in the building. Shout out for the support. Anybody else, when you roll in, leave a comment up or put a comment up. So I'm just gonna chime in on this real quick and maybe come back or whatever I can do. But last night I was watching a Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and the episode I was watching, he was interviewing the epigeneticist named Bianca Jones Marlin. Now, in this episode, they are talking about epigenetics and generational trauma. And I was like, okay, now this has been scientifically proven. It's about to be a wrap. But haven't y'all remember people in the conscious community before science figured this all the way out? Because they doing this now. Don't y'all remember in the conscious community or what have you, teachers talking about ancestral memory? That you have something called an ancestral memory where you actually can remember and genetically experience and suffer even the trauma of your ancestors. Well, when y'all watch this clip right here, and it's I guess they was making light of the situation, but the whole undertone to their conversation is about the trauma that Black people have been through. So instead of, because it's not a social platform, it's a science platform. So instead of addressing it directly, they kind of joked about it. First joke, second joke, third joke. By the time it got down to the third, fourth joke, Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, all right now, okay, come on now. Like he was tired of equating the trauma that they're about to talk about to the Black experience. But as you'll see, it was just a byproduct of learning the information that they learned. They instantly started cracking jokes about how this was the Black mouths and all this stuff. So, in conclusion of what they found out, is that in the lab rats that they studied and inflicted the mildest trauma upon, they watched the successors of these mice mutate or genetically change to address the trauma. Now, I'm going to let them explain it best, and I don't know how shareable his content is, but, it's all good. We'll stop and comment on it so that we can't, so that it's just not taking their content. But here they're about to talk about passing down trauma. And let's listen to this.
Sadly doing to mice to inflict trauma. And how do you then balance that out to see how these changes take place?
Well, first we paint the mice black. That's the first thing we do.
You know the sad part is, oh gosh, they're called C57 Black 6. Those are the name of the mice. It's just like in the name. Every time we write it down, we're like black mouse, yeah.
Oh, what a shame.
But we treat them very well, because we really want to see.
We will not allow them to get a mortgage in certain areas.
We do redline them.
Time for our first commercial break. We'll be back after we reset.
You cut off parts of the maze.
Oh, God.
A maze with no exit, right?
Yeah.
Just stuff, just messing with you.
Yes, because we want to see what is the bare minimum that you could do to create an epigenetic change. We really try to do the bare minimum. And we also respect the fact that every mouse that is part of this experiment and experience is a mouse that we're asking them to dedicate their life to this experience. So we do take that very seriously.
Did she say she's asking them?
We do. Look, they have names. After _Black 6, they have a name. We give them names. So,
Okay.
yeah.
There's Tyrone.
You're gonna get me in trouble here, okay?
I am forbidden from saying anything right now.
Yeah, you better.
You know. Malik is my favorite.
Letitia.
Guys, okay, I'm pulling it back.
Go
ahead.
Y'all gonna get me in trouble. All right. So they pretty much have a pretty regular mouse life, right? They hang out in a cage, they get food, sometimes they get to have sex, they live their best life. This is what they do. So there's not many dynamic things happening in their life when they're here in the lab. What we do is we place them into a new chamber, so they haven't seen this chamber before. We then introduce an odor, a smell. This is a smell, it kind of smells like almond. It's called acetophenone. And we present acetophenone for 10 seconds, and then it co-terminates with a light foot shock. We give them a light foot shock on their foot, and they jump back. But in a mouse who pretty much has had the best life of eating, drinking, and hanging out,
This is a terrible thing.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like,
Right.
It's a big deal.
It's like, this is when they find out, oh my God, I'm black. This is the
when did you find out you were black?
Until
life was
One
great
day I smelled
until
almond,
this
yeah.
moment.
Okay, all
I
right.
smelled some almond and I got a shot.
Foot shock, right?
All
So they're
right.
like, what is happening? This happens 5 times in a row.
Right.
And then we put
Over
them
what
back in the
period
cage
of time?
over the span of 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
We put them back in the cage, and we take them out the next day. We put them in the chamber. You could already tell they
Right.
what a
Just
mouse,
from their chamber itself. It
their
makes them
experience. They do.
apprehensive.
Yes, they freeze. It's called freezing. Mice do two things: they'll either freeze or run away. Those are their two responses to stress. So they freeze when they get in. We have not given them the odor. They already know the room is already stressing them out. So then they get kind of chilled with the room, like okay, nothing's happening, and then we turn on the odor and they freeze again.
Of course.
And they're
even
waiting,
before you shock them.
Right.
and they're counting down for the foot shock. And so they freeze when they smell it, and then they jump because they get the foot shock.
Yeah, they get that.
We do this for 10 minutes a day for 3 days. There's many things you can use, many things neuroscientists use to create this pairing, like odor, or we can use sound. We use odor for
sensory correspondence. Yeah.
sensory correspondence, yes. And I even said the vision, like going into the chamber will also make them
Right,
scared.
exactly, yeah.
But we use odor for a very specific reason. And I can either tell you now, or you can ask me, and I can tell you. What do you want me to do?
No, let's do it.
Do
I know we
not
got
keep
it.
me guessing.
Okay. We use odor because odor is just a really cool sense. The lab studies smell, taste, and sound, these three. In focusing on odor, when you breathe in, you respire, you're smelling my lovely Acqua di Parma perfume, right? And you'll remember this moment forever because of this. This is how we interact with the world. When you breathe in, there are some neurons that interact both with the world and with the brain. These neurons are called olfactory sensory neurons. So they're first order neurons that explore the world and also can send a message back to the brain. And I was lucky enough to train under Richard Axel for my postdoc. He won the Nobel Prize for understanding. He, along with his postdoc, Linda Buck, won the Nobel Prize in 2004 for ironing out what it means to have a mammalian sensory system like the nose. And what we see in the nose is that every neuron in the nose expresses only one olfactory receptor. So it could pretty much only respond to a chemical that binds only to that receptor.
Wow.
So there's a level of specificity. And in speaking about epigenetic inheritance and transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, what does it mean for us to be stressed because of our ancestors? This is what we're missing in the field. And this is why I'm so proud that my lab has been able to bring this to the field, the level of specificity. Because we're not talking about your feelings getting hurt. We're talking about an odor that only binds and activates this one receptor in this nose.
Right.
And what we've been able to replicate, because another lab did this first and it came up with a lot of controversy, and then demonstrate to a higher extent, is that those neurons that smell that almond, you take that mouse out, not the moms, only the dads. You breed them, and you look at the next generation. And those generations
dare.
are born with a different
you
olfactory sensory
Get the
epithelium.
hell out of here.
So how do you?
That is
'cause It's not as if you
insane.
can look up the nose and say, "Oh, you've got more."
Let's
or
stop
you've
real
got-
quick. Now that's crazy. I hope everybody peeping game. Because they testing on these rats to learn about humans. They ain't really tripping off rats. But she's talking about how this mild trauma was then passed down to the offspring. But watch it get deeper.
The same. So how are you testing? How are you finding your results to prove?
Yes, we have a really cool
Wow,
new
that is
technique.
amazing.
Thank you. Yes.
I mean,
that
that's
is.
really. I mean,
Let me back up just for a minute.
Yeah.
You described the experiment as though it was written on a tablet somewhere, but you had to sit down with either yourself or with
Yes.
colleagues and figure out
out.
what would make a good test
Hands down.
for the hypothesis.
Hands down. That took a lot of time.
I just want to
energy.
give credit to
Thank you.
It's
Exactly.
easy to say, put him in.
No.
Give him no, you have to think that through.
I mean, that's just tremendous.
Okay. And you want it to be simple enough
Yes.
So that there's not a lot of complicating other factors
Exactly.
to isolate the causes and effects.
Right.
on the nose.
That's
Yes.
so great.
And it's not an easy part of the brain to get to.
No.
We created techniques, and we use techniques now in the lab. We do brain clearing, so we can clear the entire tissue.
Okay, that's
I'm gonna see.
Okay.
Listen. Let me just
And
say
use light sheet imaging, and
Right
then
now,
it's
this
so
is
cool.
brain clearing.
This is
Brain
some
clearing and light
straight
sheet,
up.
yes,
They clone
it's great.
Tyrone stuff that I'm not sure.
Transgenerationally, yes. There's like a little transgenerational Tyrone.
So how exactly and where exactly?
That's gonna be the name of my first book, like Transgenerational Tyrone. Intergenerational inheritance of trauma.
So what's the
Yes.
brain clearing though? That's how do you get to that space?
I
where
totally
you-
skipped a part because we're
Yeah.
seeing that the offspring have a brain that looks like the parent. But I didn't tell you what the parent brain looks like. We take the animal out of this chamber after 3 days of odor shock pairing. We let them relax. Day 10, they actually get to, have a little fun. They breed because we're going to look at those kids later. And 21 days later, we ask them to sacrifice their life, and then we look at their brain.
Right.
And if you look at the animals that just got an odor and no shock, or just got a shock and no odor, or got odor and shock, but it's not co-terminating at the same time, their brains all look the same. The paired animals, we call it, the animals got the odor co-terminating with shock. They have more neurons that respond to that odor. So I want to give a second to give
All right,
the
I
beauty
know.
of biology that's
Now y'all heard that? The ones that got the shock and the odor at the same time now have more neurons that respond to that odor. You know how deep that could go when the scientists start breaking this down and people start writing books on this? It's gonna be over. Like, that is huge.
sits there before we even get to the next generation. The brain takes energy to make new things, to change.
It's
And we
an
have
electric.
more
It's an
neurons.
electric device, so it makes sense.
So what period of time does it take for this generation of more receptors to actually happen
We are
in the
seeing it
adult?
in the order of 21 days, about a month. Cool part about the main olfactory epithelium, there's stem cells in this area.
What part? That's the part where the smell.
Exactly, the
manifests?
neurons that can smell the world and then send
And you
information
call that
to
what?
the main olfactory epithelium. Epithelium.
There's another epi.
Look at that.
Okay,
Yes.
epithelium. Good. Okay.
And so this tissue, it has a stem cell population. There are very few areas of the brain that have stem cells. One is the hippocampus, an area known for placement and memory. One is the olfactory bulb. This is where these neurons send the information to that go to other parts of the brain. And the main olfactory epithelium. So there's neurons that are there. They're not neurons. I take that back. They're cells that are there.
Stem
and they're
cells.
like, what am I going to be when I grow up? And they usually hang out and they're like, okay, I'm going to be a peppermint cell because that's what my epigenetic modifications will allow me to be. And then we give them this experience, this odor shock pairing. And what we've gone on to demonstrate, what my lab has demonstrated, is that these neurons are going to be peppermint. Say, as important as peppermint is,
Not gonna do
almonds
that.
more
Yeah,
important.
I'm not going to do that. I gotta make
I'm
a
going
detour.
choose.
to
I gotta make a
bias my
detour.
receptor
I
choice.
got to make
Yeah.
a detour because that's more important for me.
Okay,
Because now
good.
I have this experience.
Now,
I just wanted to
obviously, if I play too much of their content, or even then, I don't know how they're gonna act, but I won't play the whole thing. I'll let the rest of this clip play out.
that becomes a stimuli, basically.
It is a stimulus, exactly.
Insane.
Just so just around.
Wow, you're brilliant.
Just
Thanks.
just on the same mouse page. How long does it take a newborn mouse to be old enough to have a next generation?
It takes about 6 weeks.
So a mouse is born. 6 weeks later, it can get pregnant.
Yes,
And how long is the gestation period?
21 days.
That's why you said 21 days before, because
It just happens to be a coincidence that also
okay.
21 days is a good time in the nose.
and the typical life expectancy of a mouse is a few years. Several years?
2 years in the lab.
Two
Yeah,
years.
a year and a half, yes.
2 years. Okay.
In the wild, a lot
So-
shorter.
Yeah, because they're tasty snacks
yeah.
for owls and foxes and things.
Exactly.
So I guess what I'm getting at is mice, which are interestingly genetically similar to us because we're
Yes.
mammals and vertebrates and this sort of thing. I get that. But what would take us decades to manifest as an organism happens in weeks
Yes.
in your lab. So that if you need to go through multiple experiments, it's way more efficient.
People also study flies and worms, and they can do this 7 generations in 2 weeks. So we're dead smack in the middle. It takes a while to get to
So that's
the
why
transgenerational
that's why
part.
flies and worms show up in these kinds of
Very
conversations. You would not do it on Galapagos tortoises. 'cause
All
that
right.
would just
Nope.
take too long.
0%
Now, here go the
chance.
next part we'll listen to is how long the changes last.
This experiment with an adult.
Yes.
How many generations will this be present? This change.
We are observing it right now from parent to offspring, from sperm of male to offspring. Our preliminary data suggests that this is not carried on to the next generation if you do nothing to the parent. And this makes evolutionary sense.
Now, this is the deep part. So the parent passes down the trauma to the offspring. But if the offspring doesn't, bruh, somebody already knew this. That's why they keep you in that similar environment and keep it prime for you to experience the same trauma. Because if the next generation does not experience the trauma, I'm going to let her explain it, then that next father won't pass it off to his offspring. But watch how deeper it gets.
If your parent has gone through a trauma and you have not come across this stressor or trauma in your lifespan, why would you give your offspring anxiety? Like, why is it that you would pass that on to the next generation if it's not relevant? Biology's smart. It's smarter than us. And so we sometimes speak about this in a lens of like fear, we don't want this. But really, I view it as biology wanting us to survive. Because if you have more neurons in the next generation, you probably can sense this odor.
Right. So
more quickly.
it becomes a defense mechanism in a matter of speaking.
Adaptive.
Right.
So what is the odor in Black trauma that's been passed down for generations? What is this metaphorical, or it's not metaphorical in that test, but in this analogy? You feel me?
In a way.
Right.
And I wouldn't call, anxiety or stressors in this area adaptive, but I do think biologically, the hope is that it becomes something that the animal will allow the organism to survive.
It gives a defense mechanism that wouldn't otherwise be there. Right. And it needed it for the almonds, even though why would you need to defend against almonds?
You had to learn.
You in your lab gave them the electric shock.
Because that's what the world looks like, right? The world is dynamic. It's always changing. There may be times where something that originally is neutral becomes something that has to be aversive, and your brain has to learn that. It's the beauty of being able to learn that, having your genome learn that, and having that be passed on.
So if your generations are in the same environment that caused all the trauma and stress for the original parent, and it stays like that, understandable, you've got the mechanisms that you should be able to survive. But what if that environment changes and you don't longer need it? Surely you've got a slightly maladapted series of offspring.
It's the question of maladaptation. I cannot create a space in my mind that would describe biology being maladaptive.
Okay.
Because what if that odor did come back? Right? Like the
All
odor
right.
could never come back, and then yes, you probably have a few more neurons, and maybe you smell a little bit less peppermint. But what if that odor does come back? Because not smelling peppermint won't kill you, but not smelling almond could.
Yes, see that.
Damn, this is deep.
and that's evolution, right? In a
Now,
nutshell.
see, they stopped joking and equating it to the Black trauma because it got too deep. But you can see the look on his face, like, man, this shit tell me a whole lot. Look.
Right
Yeah,
there.
happening much quicker
Right.
than we normally
we
tend to
describe
think.
that. No, it's not epigenetic, but it's in the skeptics community. We describe why it is we are so good at seeing patterns, even when there's no pattern there.
Right.
And it's been plausibly traced back to if you think you see a lion in the bushes and you run away, even though there wasn't a lion in the bushes, you live another day.
Voila.
If you don't think there's one there and there is, then that's the end of your gene pool.
Game
Yeah.
over.
Right. So there's a benefit to the caution, to be on the cautionary side of all of this.
Let's throw it into the moment.
All right.
We have
So watch the whole video. Scientists discuss epigenetics and generational trauma. I'm going to do a short, so I'm going to open up a quick Zoom to hear if any of y'all got some commentary on this subject and how it might relate to traumas experienced in the Black community today, as well as the reparations argument. I think now that science has proven that, once the documentation, once it get written up, it's lightweight over. You won't be able to make no argument against those traumas that were inflicted a few generations ago, affecting people today. Not to mention all the modern and recent ones. Now you can see why somebody who don't even know the police hear that word and be, hey, that's that smell, them 5-0 lights. But somebody was stringing that together a lot better than I did. I just put up the link to hear some of y'all comments on this right now. If y'all think this has nothing to do with Black people in America or any people who've been traumatized and how it would affect them genetically, right? Somebody want to comment, go on and say something. If not, we're going to rock for a minute and I'll come back with another video. But I would like to hear from y'all, so hit that link. Hit that link. Let me see. Somebody said police following you in the car, harassing you. That's the odor that'll start the trauma. Interesting. Yeah, I'll wait a few minutes, see if somebody want to hit the link. I kind of just want that up there, and I'll point y'all to. Oh, well, we was actually talking about, I just played a video that's on Star Talk, Neil deGrasse Tyson channel, where scientists basically are starting to prove generational trauma, that a father passes down his trauma to his offspring, and his offspring's DNA. Wait till you watch the whole video. That's why they're talking about epigenetics. It's actually something that sits on top of the DNA. Well, that's what epi seems to refer to, as I learned from watching this video. And it will block certain portions of it due to what trauma the parent has experienced. Basically modifying your DNA. And also she said there were neurons or certain cells that upon selection of what they will do, they will choose to take up a job, so to speak, that will allow them to respond to the trauma that the previous father went through. Yep. Word up. It's interesting that they're saying they just coming up with some of these tests this year. So I don't say that they started epigenetics this year, but some of these tests she was talking about, saying they're currently doing them right now. So that's cool. I'll wait a couple more minutes to see if somebody want to hit the link. Exactly. Now, this is what I was saying, Haley. We understand the literature and the work done about post-traumatic slave syndrome. But honestly, it was more philosophical and less scientific. Unless I'm wrong. Unless I don't even remember reading that actual book. But I remember learning about the theory, and how I learned about the theory, it was not detailed to me as if it was scientific, like they enslaved some rats and then found out, some mice, and then found out the mice suffered from that. But yeah, I do. And this is what I'm saying. I think this is the scientific piece that's going to qualify literature like that. Post-traumatic slave syndrome and theories like that. All right. So yeah, I guess that's about it. I'll ask y'all to go watch the whole video on Neil deGrasse Tyson's page. And I was over here studying, but I don't want to put this all in this video. So I might be back. It depending on what's popping. And every time I look at my phone, why are they so promoting Kamala? Not Kamala. Why are they so promoting Candace Owens? Every time I look at my phone on YouTube, she on the top of the stream. Like they want everybody to see what she's saying about Kamala. So yeah, somebody said Jane Goodall studies Joy DeGruy, right? And post-traumatic slave syndrome. And the work by the sister right there, and plenty of others who detailed it in many ways. I'm saying once they got it scientifically proven like that and locked down, it'll be hard. It's gonna be hard for somebody to talk about these effects. I'm claustrophobic. Why would I just have some fear of small, tight places? They're going to trace that shit back to somebody being locked in the middle passage. You feel me? I'm just saying, she said it go back far. You can read, I mean, watch the whole video. It ain't like that. But I'm just saying, you might find out little stuff like that, and that's crazy. But all right, y'all, thanks for tapping in. I'll be back with another video. Make sure y'all don't hesitate to click like. We might just kick it and chill for a minute. Do what we do. But I'm going to let this video be done.